everybody. Welcome to another episode of Pop Jedi. Of course, Rob DiLauro, and with me as always, Miss JennaSayWhat, or Athena this time around. Jenna, what's going on?
Not too much, Rob. What's going on with you?
Not too much. And first of all, guys, I want to thank you so much for your continued love and support when it comes to the show. Again, the Dune episode is taking off. And, we just want to thank you so much for liking and subscribing. And if you're, not subscribed to the channel, please like and subscribe for all our new episodes. This is the only place to get them. So thank you so much for that. We're actually going to get into Top Jedi before we talk about our main conversation this week, which I'm really excited about because, last week we talked about Dune, where I kind of had some like history and some certain involvement as a fan in that particular area, whereas this time around, Jen and I know absolutely nothing aside from what I've researched and of course after watching the film. But we haven't got into Marvel territory in quite some time. And we thought it would just be really who view of us as a pop culture show to talk about Eternals, which is a huge hit across the world right now. Not so much critically, but we'll get into that too as well. So as I said, we're going to get into Top Jedi news, which is our news for the week. So Jenna, what is going on in Top Jedi this week?
So first off, let me be still my heart, but Olivia Wilde is in the news. There are some theories going on currently about her potentially being Gozer in the new Ghostbusters Afterlife, which, listen, as someone who loved the original Ghostbusters, had the play set and was very emotionally attached to that play set, and before my mother took it away from me, let's not get into that, but Gozer was
yeah,
and I'm a big fan of Olivia Wilde in so many different ways, and my heart, please give me this. If you have to go back and edit it in, I don't care, just make it happen. Like make my heart happy. Oh God.
So apparently what's going on is to kind of dovetail off what you're trying to say is that supposedly there was reports that Olivia Wilde is cast, she's a secret casting in Ghostbusters Afterlife. Then there was a bunch of trailer sleuths that went and watched all the trailers and all the different teasers and stuff back, and they say very clearly that they could see Olivia Wilde in certain moments of that trailer, but it's like very like blink and you miss it. And it's also like maybe like statues throughout Egon's belongings or something like that, you know what I mean?
I'm here for it. Please give me Olivia Wilde as Gozer.
So next in Top Jedi news, we're going to get into some horror territory. The latest episode of Chucky just premiered on USA and Sci-Fi yesterday, and you know what? I gotta say, it really warmed my heart to see this kind of violent but sexual moment where Fiona Dourif like stepped into basically like the guise of her father's most famous character, Charles Lee Ray. And there was a whole behind the scenes thing about it. I didn't even know as I was watching the show yesterday that was actually Fiona in the flashback where she's supposed to meet Tiffany Valentine. And then of course, she shows up as a character she's featured in when it comes to it's Curse of Chucky and Cold of Chucky, where she played Nika, the paraplegic woman who, her entire family's murdered, and she ended up going to a mental institution because of Chucky. And then she's possessed by Charles Lee Ray at the end of Cold of Chucky, so she becomes, Chucky in essence, because he is able to kind of transfer his body to all these different places and not just one. So yeah, no, it was really beautiful to see that. Even though she was like kind of in lingerie and like it was a super weird moment just to see her like with Jennifer, like Jennifer Tilly, like a more like still timeless, like seasoned Jennifer Tilly, playing Tiffany still. It was just the whole thing was just really beautifully executed. There's an anniversary in Star Trek Worlds.
Happy. Okay. So also spoiler alert on this one. So, if you haven't seen Deep Space Nine, please scroll forward just a little bit, just a smidge. But happy would be 24th anniversary to Dax and Worf. And I'm sad about that because Dax is incredible and I absolutely love her and Worf together, and the fact that they killed off a very trans representative character still kills me to this day. So I am not too happy about that, but happy would be 24th anniversary to Dax and Worf.
So next in Top Jedi news, again, this is not a property that Jenna was a fan of, and we actually ended up scrapping a show idea because she didn't care for it, which is fine. You know, not everything's for everybody. But for those of us who were fans of this phenomenon from Korea and this Netflix production from Korea, Squid Game is apparently continuing, according to the creator. And he basically just, you know, declared that due to the success of the show, he does not have any set plans. He just has not talked to Netflix about it, but he does have a clear image of what he wants to do as far as an idea in his head. He actually wants to film a film first. You know, and I just want to say this, you know, this is for any creator out there, because it seems like, you know, the way he's talking, it all kind of feels like, you know, there's sort of like there's a creative gun to his own head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We just want that, you know, if anything is going to continue, especially something like Squid Game, which I thought was pretty phenomenal, you know, I just want to make sure is like, you know, his head is completely in the game when it comes to it, and he doesn't feel like he's rushed. You know what I mean? It wouldn't help anybody. It wouldn't help the fans. It wouldn't help him, and it wouldn't help the property. You know, so although this is kind of like joyous news for the fans of the show, it does kind of feel like, you know, he's in a moment where he's just like, well, I didn't really have any ideas, but, you know, because it's, you know, like millions of people watched it, I got to do it. I got to do it. And I think that's where, you know, a lot of those sequels and stuff that, you know, like didn't quite work out, like go to die because, you know, like people just said, oh, okay, well, the first one was a success. Let's bang out 3 more. You know what I mean? And I just don't want that to happen.
I hope that it doesn't end up being that way either, because despite the fact that I wasn't a huge fan of the show, they did an incredible job.
Mm-hmm.
They really did. So I hope that they don't feel that like immense pressure and then drop the ball, and then it becomes a whole to do because God knows that everybody's going to be up in arms freaking out because, oh, he messed up the show. And it's like, you could have just left it at 1 though.
So finally, in Top Jedi news, we are talking about Marvel. We are talking about Ant-Man, of all things. You know, this is a guy who, well, first let me say this. One of the greatest compliments I ever received from any woman was that I was aging like this man. And I was just like, oh, that means so much to me. Thank you. Because a national treasure, an icon, one of the funniest men in the world, one of the kindest men in the world. I never heard anything horrible about this guy, you know, and, you know, just like an all around, like really super talented, like just, you know, just like off the cuff, like just comedic guy, like, you know what I mean? That could do drama and do all these different things and action and, you know, change his body, you know, obviously to be a superhero and stuff. But Paul Rudd is the sexiest man alive. So funny. So awesome. So awesome.
He deserves it.
I think so too. And the great thing about it is that like he's not taking this lightly. You know what I mean? Like he joked about himself mercilessly on the latest episode of Stephen Colbert. And he also did like a couple things, you know, for people, like videos for them and stuff. And he goes, I'm not going quiet into the night. I'm going to make business cards. Like I am going to.
I love Paul Rudd.
He says, I'm going to lean into this. So with that, we are actually going to get into some Marvel territory, as I said before. And we're going to be talking about the Chloe Zhao directed The Eternals, which is now called. Yeah, I don't know anything about this comic property. I do want to say first off, though, Jenna, you know, when I was watching this movie, I know you're a big fan of Inhumans. And after a movie like this, I could not see for the life of me that Inhumans would enter into the MCU at some point, like in the next like 5 years.
Oh, but before we get started, spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about the Eternals. So if you have not watched it, come back and watch this after you've watched it.
That's right. If you have not seen the Eternals, please do.
Yes.
Please do yourself a favor, go watch the movie and check out our review afterwards.
Yes.
Because we're gonna get, you know, pretty deep into this.
But I did want to get into that because, like, okay, if you are a fan of the show and have been a fan of the show for a while, or you've been a fan of mine and crossed over into this platform, for one, thank you. But for two, you know that I am a huge Inhumans fan, and I will die on that hill till the very day that I actually die. I do like the fact that there are two characters in the MCU that are deaf, and I think that is great representation. I like Black Bolt he's not deaf, however, he is choosing to be completely mute because of the fact that his voice can kill everything in its path. But we also have an actual deaf actress, Lauren Ridloff, who is playing Makari, and she's a deaf actress, and I
also plays Connie on The Walking Dead in passing. She's amazing in The Walking Dead.
Yeah, I'm so happy and so proud of Marvel for doing that.
So to get into a little backstory, because I had to do some research when it comes to Eternals. I knew a little bit, but I didn't know too much. Eternals was created, of course, by Mr. Jack King Kirby himself. And I'm wearing my New Gods attire today because, it is in honor of Jack. And of course, we are talking about the Eternals. The Eternals was actually a creation that he wanted to work on while he was working at DC Comics when he created the New Gods. And I guess he didn't quite get to do that story. So he ended up moving to Marvel and worked on Eternals while he was there. And, that was like around the late 70s that he started doing that particular story. And then, as time went on, he was doing the story and I guess, I don't know, because it didn't necessarily pick up with certain people, whatever, there were certain gaps within the story that he wasn't able to tell and all these different things. And then through the years, just kind of circulated, throughout time, just like the Eternals themselves. And, in the early 2000s, I believe it was, I think Neil Gaiman was one of the major factors to kind of bring Eternals back and tell his own kind of storyline when it comes to the characters. And again, being a big fan of comics, somebody that, actually, had poly bags and comic book shelves, in my room and everything. I know nothing about the Eternals, absolutely nothing. So
I didn't either.
It was kind of neat and refreshing to go into this blind, you know what I mean? Because I felt like I was being introduced to something that's oh, I have no idea who these people are, you know what I mean? So there's your testing ground. Will I fall in love with these characters? And I have to say resoundingly, for the most part, yes. It definitely worked on me.
Same. I like how they introduced them. I thought that it was really well done for someone that's going in completely blind. Now, a lot of the MCU, a bunch of the MCU, I can go in already quick firing knowledge. However, this was one of the ones I was like you, and I was completely blind to it. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to figure it out. So, and they did a great job at showcasing their personalities. I think Thena was the only one where I was like, tell me more about her. She's elusive and not really talking. Tell me things. But I also love Angelina Jolie. So
yeah. Oh yeah, me too. Ever since I was 14 years old, as a matter of fact. But yeah, it was actually Hackers for me. That's when I oh yeah. Yep. But anyway, so
Rob's now thirsting instead of Jenna. What's this? The tables have turned.
Like we said, we don't know anything about this particular story. And to be honest with you, I didn't know anything about the work of Chloe Zhao either. I knew bits and pieces about, Frances McDormand's film that she did, Nomadland, and that she's into, more landscape filmmaking, likes to do things kind of territorial, outside, as opposed to in a sound stage, and and yeah, a lot of that definitely reflects in this movie. There's some really gorgeous cinematography in this film.
Very. I thought the fact that she was outside a lot, even inside, there was still a lot of aspects with the outside kind of being brought in a little bit, doors being open, things like that. So I don't know. I thought it was a beautiful film. Like aesthetically, I thought it was very beautiful, and it was very like cohesive. It flowed really well.
So let's get into the story a little bit. So if you guys aren't familiar with the Eternals, and like I said, if you've not seen the movie, just please stop where you're at right now, because like I said, we're going to get into spoilers. But the Eternals were sent here to Earth during 5000 BC. They've been protecting other places for millions of years, but they're not quite sure about that yet. They just know that they were put here on Earth to protect inhabitants, in a particular area in 5000 BC from a species called the deviants, which very video gamey to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like the creature design.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that they were very like something that you would see in like a video game or something like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that the creature design was one of the things that actually kind of turned me off a little bit, I think.
Really?
Yeah, just a little bit. They just looked a little too CG to me, I think. Certain elements of them. It kind of didn't take me out of the movie, but like that was the one thing that just kind of really
I liked the monsters and like what are they called? Deviants, yeah. I liked the deviants. I thought that they were like really like beautifully done, but also really like uncomfortable looking as well.
I was just hoping as a design, since this is, this kind of, it's kind of like this more, photogenic, Marvel film, like detailing, nature and Earth and all that stuff. I just wish they were a little more organic, when it comes to the design. That was the only thing that was my main, I didn't fall back on it. I felt like
they kind of looked inky, and I thought that kind of seemed a little appropriate for it, even with like it being very like everything being almost like nature kind of things, like oil slicks, things like that. I thought he kind of looked like an oil slick a little bit because it had that like blue hue to it, which sometimes you can get that off of like light reflecting off of like oil spills, things like that. I felt like that's what they kind of looked like to me, was like oily and like that kind of stuff.
And here's the other interesting thing, and this is something that I saw a lot of audiences that saw the movie actually like kind of took them out of certain moments or whatever. But when you're seeing them in 5000 BC and they are Eternals, like they have no like actual lives yet, you know what I mean? Like they're just charged to protect like the citizens of this particular area. Their monologue is very you know what I mean? Like it is very stoic. You know what I mean? Yes, yeah. Like everything's stoic. It almost felt like comic book bubbles, when they were actually, like you know what I mean? Like it almost felt like that was a choice.
It was such a weird part going straight into it, where I was just like, okay, is this, because in the back of my head I was like, okay, if the movie's going to be like this, where it is kind of like just where they're stoic and there's not much to them, I was like, that's whenever I would understand why people had a problem with it. But that was only like the first small little snippet of the beginning of the movie where they were like, we're here now.
But it makes sense in the grand scheme, because like until Ajax tells them, like your charge is done, I want you to go and discover things for yourself, find yourself. They don't know anything about themselves, and they really know nothing about humanity. So how would they know at that certain point, where they're technically just warriors, or a team, just set to to fight this particular species off? How would they know how to act human? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, Ajax at this point, like whenever she's like, go live your lives, they've already established their personalities, their friendships, their dynamics in that group. Because at that point, it's like really far into the future, and like, they're kind of doing their thing. They've been doing their thing. So it's, at that point, Ajax kind of knew what she was doing at that point, where she was like, you know what, let's just have fun. Let's do this.
Well, the other thing too, we'll get into like, her other scheme, quote unquote, but like, I think the other thing that was really kind of interesting about it is, like we have these actors like Salma Hayek and we have these actors like Angelina Jolie, but they're part of an ensemble, and they're, you know what I mean? Like this is, if you're thinking it's just, about Salma Hayek and Angelina Jolie when you're walking to the theater, you're absolutely wrong, because this is really kind of Gemma Chan's story. Her character Cersei.
Yes.
So I thought that was really kind of interesting too. You know what I mean? Like that these it's always great to me when, just like Dune, for example, like Jason Momoa could just be an ensemble cast member and not have to, like chew up the scenery and take, everything over and stuff. And that's kind of what this team feels like to me. Like, like no matter what the star power, like we're just doing this together.
Yeah. I think that that's actually kind of a cool little thing, because I did know that, like, as the movie was progressing, I'm like, whoa, they're not like leaning on Selma Hayek and Angelina Jolie.
No.
This is crazy. It's wild. They're Drew Barrymoring the situation.
Yeah, for sure.
Except for they didn't get killed off.
Yeah. So
well,
when they're getting into the situation with the romance, of course, that turns into a marriage between Icarus and Cersei, Gemma Chan's character, which, of course, if you guys don't know who Gemma Chan is, Gemma is also in the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise, so she's doubly in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But yeah, when you're getting into that romantic situation with them, I think the other thing that people said they had a problem with, and I don't quite understand it, this is like technically Marvel's first sex scene. I loved it. Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because it just humanized these characters in a way we've never seen before. I think it was very tasteful, but at the same time, like I said, like it's not a titillation thing at all. It's literally like we've just never seen that aspect of. We've seen characters in love with each other, you know what I mean? But they never really pushed the pedal on that, and it just like kind of humanized these characters quite a bit more for me than I'm expecting, or expected, like even just seeing Wanda, like WandaVision, for example, like just seeing Vision and Wanda in bed in the 50s with each other was just like kind of like, wow, that's new,
Yeah.
So yeah, this is kind of a cool moment, I thought. I don't think it hurts anything, and I don't think it pervs out Marvel or anything. I don't think that was the intent. When it comes to the Eternals themselves.
Every time I cosplay an MCU character, I immediately am like, man, I'm so like this character. And then I get smacked in the face with someone like Kingo, and then also Ant-Man. I'm a combination of the two, and I hate it. I didn't choose this life, but it chose me. But there you go. There it is. There are my two characters in the MCU. So I'm like, I love him.
I'm gonna be real honest with you. I think I was more connected to out of all of them, even with the love that I have for Angelina Jolie and all that. I think and it probably falls back on the fact that I'm an Anne Rice fan. Like I really like the character of Sprite. I think she's very unique, and there's you know what I mean. There's definitely some story there.
Yeah, I think also like because like I had like 3 specific characters that I really, really enjoyed, but Kingo is the one where I was like,
and I also love the relationship between Gilgamesh and Athena, because that was not a sexual thing. That was him just basically saying like, I know you can try to kill me at any moment, but I'm going to spend eternity protecting you. And
I loved that so much. Like Gilgamesh was just one of those characters where I was like immediately smitten by him. I was just like, oh, he's an angel, and I love him.
Yeah. And he makes spear out of spit, which is like really disgusting.
I love that. I thought that was hilarious. Fastos is also another one that I really enjoyed. For so many reasons, but Yeah, those three were the big characters, but Kingo is the one where I was like, yep, that's me.
Yeah, so like these superpower people think they are from Olympia, that they're gods. But it turns out that's not the case, and we'll get into that a little bit. But I think the thing that really excited me about this movie is that for the most part, Marvel, as much as people love Marvel also gets caught in a situation of people just think they kind of play on the same beat every single time they put a movie out. You know what I mean? Like it's just, you know what I mean? Just the same, kind of formula, like in every single film. And this one didn't feel that way. It felt, like
it felt fresh.
Absolutely. Yeah. It felt like something different. It just felt more dramatic, this movie. And it felt like there were stakes in the movie that first of all, I wasn't expecting. Like it is technically, like a family drama. It is, and interestingly enough, we just talked about, Denis Villeneuve's Dune last week, but, there's a lot of the same elements within this movie, within Dune, with, Crisis of Faith and all these different things. I just thought it was just so wonderfully executed and really, brought something, like you said, I think fresh is the word for sure. It just felt like something different that we're not really expecting. The fact that, characters can die and like actually die for real. And not used to that. I'm not used to that.
I don't like it.
When it comes to these characters, when they're, basically, like asked to, just live your lives, find your own way. By Salma Hayek, who's technically, sort of the matriarch of this particular group. Like that's their mother. Like, you listen to me, like you believe me, like I'm your sage advisor. But you keep mentioning Kingo, of course, which is Camille Nanjiani's character. I've been a fan of Camille years before, like he, became as big as he is now. When he was a comedian, you know what I mean? Like back in the day. I'm just so excited for him. And, obviously he's, literally changes to a superhero. His body is completely different. And like, he's incredible. And he wasn't like over the top with his comedy. Cause of course, when you're thinking, like this character's, just going to throw one-liners out there. Yeah, he did. But it wasn't like overbearing to me. You know what I mean?
No. I think that they utilized his comedy perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like him doing the Bollywood, which by the way, as a fan of Bollywood, oh my God, I was so excited to see that scene of him like dancing, and he's just like, he is getting it. And I'm just like, hello.
Yeah.
Hello. And then it's like, oh my God. So I was just like, I'm here for this.
So let's talk a little bit about the actual motivation of the Eternals, and then of course, the actual realization that Cersei, comes to when it comes to the Celestial that they not only were created by, basically to a certain degree worship. His name is Aramesh. Man, really cool to see Celestial show up in a Marvel movie. That was pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, that was terrifying, but also quite amazing.
Mm-hmm. So basically, they felt that they were charged here on this planet to protect it, but it turns out that they are a creation of Aramesh, and they, just like the Deviants, are sort of, basically like pitted against each other, so there's like a power struggle that like also creates a type of energy to a certain extent. And then, it also comes, like into play when it comes to the actual like intelligence of, like humanity as a whole and all these different things is like this microcosm of just like power and energy, which would create a new Celestial, and the Celestial would technically be born through the crust of the earth, destroying everybody, like in plain sight. Like the planet just gets destroyed. You know what? I think that's I think that's unique. I think that there's definitely something, um, there's some interesting stuff there to, play into,
Oh yeah.
in later movies. But also it's not the same, like, it's not the same situation where it's like, it's just like a big bad, like a Thanos or whatever. As much as I love those characters, it was more like, you know, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Like, you stop this, you create, you just like destroy creation altogether. As much as you want to protect humanity, either way, it's not going to work out in your favor. It's just so beautifully done, because you have all these visuals and stuff, and you're basically seeing it happen before your eyes. So it's not like, you're just seeing somebody just talking about something. You're actually seeing it in front of you. And again, I love that. I love that stake, you know what I mean? Because it's not, just,
Yeah.
like a villain doing something because they feel it's good, even though it's really horrible and genocidal or whatever. It's literally just, this is what's got to happen. Like, for the galaxy to continue to thrive and grow, like, this is what has to be done. Earth needs to die. It was also beautiful to me that the Celestials, even, like millions of years ago, with all the different conflicts going on in the world, throughout time and all this other stuff, are so progressive as, like this godly being,
Yeah.
that they create a group that, has a Hindi man and a black man who just happens to be gay, like later on in life, and a deaf, black woman, and like, it's really kind of progressive. I like that about it.
I love it. And the people that are complaining about it, whatever, they could suck a lemon. I don't care. So for me, like, I love the way that they did Fastos, and the fact that they didn't smack you in the face with it. They just let you know, like, this is their kid, this is his husband. That oh god, the beautiful moment with him and his husband before he leaves, and that, like, oh, that tenderness of, like, this could be the last time, and that pain. Oh god, it broke me a little bit. And it's just, the people that want to complain about this don't understand what it's like to not have representation. And, like, I'm obviously white, but I'm also, a part of the GBLT. I'm ace, I'm pan, I am pagan. So I have a few, negative things that would, people would be like, oh, you're one of those people. It's like, so seeing representation was so nice. And seeing, like, Thena and them calling her, like, the goddess of war, Athena being one of my patron saints that I worshiped way back whenever I was a teenager, and I loved Athena. And it was just like, it's cool to see that representation of, like, so many different factions of people that need that representation. So, like, if the people want to complain about that, so be it. You know what? It's going to get worse from here, guys. So buckle in, either join us or, not. I don't know what to tell you.
So yeah, the other cool thing I wanted to mention about Brian Tyree Henry, who plays Fastos, is that he just said in an interview recently, like, he's a bigger gentleman. And he was talking to Chloe Zhao before the film started, and was like, okay, what, how much weight do I need to lose? How much, this and that. And Chloe Zhao and Marvel just basically said, no, we just want you to be, the person that you are, like the hero that you are. You're the architect. You're a major factor of this, particular story. So, he didn't really have to do anything. I thought that was really amazing. I thought that was awesome, because
that makes me so happy, because again, we need dad bod representation, and we need that kind of thing.
So I wanted to mention too that there's actually another member of the team there for a while, played by Harish Patel, who plays Karun, which is actually the kind of the right hand of Kingo, the Bollywood star that is Kingo.
And he is the most prepared individual I've ever seen in my life. I love him.
Filming this documentary the entire time. But what's really interesting about that is that, because, like the Eternals don't age or whatever, he had basically said that, he's worked with Karun for 50 years, but, there was times where he had to like basically prevent him from trying to murder him because he thought he was a vampire. And then during the time period of like being a Bollywood star since like the 20s or something like that.
Yeah, that's
like,
my great grandfather.
Yeah, he built a heritage of actors that were just him the entire time. The greatest Bollywood acting like family of all time.
I died. I died laughing at that part, and I was just like,
kind of brilliant.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, Kingo is definitely me. That'd been me.
Yeah, but man, I mean, like, talk about like you want somebody to like be your right hand. I mean, that guy was like there the entire time. Like
the entire time I was like, please don't do a Milton. Please don't do a Milton and Suicide Squad. Please don't kill him off. Don't kill him off. Oh God. And can we just touch on his exit where he was like, God, and he's like in tears, and you're just like, huh. And he's like, thank you so much for everything that you guys did. I know that and it was just like you can just tell that they're like, God, we have to save humanity. We have to, like, look at this man. There are millions of other people out there that are like him, that are just as kind, just as like understanding, and just as compassionate and amazing of a human being. And they're just like, no. Like, I hope that celestial being reaches into their minds and pulls that one out, because try to be mean about that one, sir.
He creates something, Fastos, because he's an inventor, creates something called the Unimind, which is basically something that could connect all of the Eternals together so they can use their power as a whole against Icarus. Yeah, and like this confrontation, I mean, like, I love it that it wasn't just like they're just throwing energy at each other, and just like a bunch of punching or whatever. Like, there's actually there's some conflict going on there. They don't want to do this. It's like family against family. It's
and then like whenever Icarus basically kills off, well, he doesn't actually kill him off, spoiler, doesn't kill off Druig, but whenever he like drops Druig from the air, and Makari's like, he's dead, and you can tell that those two they got a thing going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Pretty hard. And Makari's like gloves off, like just goes at him. And you can, as someone that if you have love and
we should also mention she's technically she's the Flash of the group.
Yeah. Yeah, she is. I love it. But yeah, so she's like just pounding the hell out of Icarus, because she's like, she's just now lost her love, and she's like losing her mind. So you can, like, as someone that has loved and lost, it sucks. And like, you can feel that pain whenever, you're watching her, and it's just like, yeah, get him, girl, get him, tear him apart.
So as this confrontation is going on, of course, like the celestial being is being born. And, it's just like, volcanic, apocalypse, like all over, this particular area, I guess, where they defended before 5,000 years ago. I think that's where it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so as this, this fight is going on between these, between all these guys, and you've got all this different, kind of dramatic, beats going on, you've got this, giant monster being born. Of course, through the Unimind, they, connect with each other. And even, Icarus, like, not wanting to do it, is, kind of, transported, through this, particular energy that, like Fastos had created. And through that, they kind of, freeze this giant celestial, so, the actual occurrence doesn't happen, and, humanity could survive another day.
Yay!
Yeah. And then Icarus, which is basically the Superman of the group, just like Icarus in the mythology, just flies directly into the sun.
It was definitely one of those moments of like pure depression, pure dark thoughts kind of thing, and he just couldn't do it. And it's just and that they as a family were not happy about that, even despite what what he did and him turning his back on them, they're family.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
just like the Fast and the Furious franchise, family is everything.
That's right.
I have to.
So she says, I have a little bit of energy left, and tells Sprite that I can turn you into a human, but if you do this, that you're going to grow old and you're going to die. And
Yeah.
she's just like, yes, that's what I want. Absolutely, give it to me.
That
Yeah,
it was everything. It made me sad, but it also made me really happy because that was what Sprite wanted.
So let's get into the actual spoiler, or the mid-credits sequence.
Kit Harington, welcome to MCU, buddy.
Mhm.
Welcome.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead and mention that.
Yeah. So we have Kit, who had told Cersei that, hey, my family crest is a little bit more than what we bargained for, basically. And she's like, oh, okay, tell me about it. And then of course she gets beamed off. Kit Harington comes up, and there he has this box, and it says
he's Jon Snow.
Oh my God. Can I also touch on the fact that it's Cersei and Jon Snow? Okay, anyways, I had to. Sorry. I
noticed that. I noticed that too.
Up until the end. But Kit Harington opens up the box. It says like death is the end, or something to that extent. I can't remember exactly what the box said, because I was just more like, oh, what is this? But it reveals that he is going to be Marvel's Black Knight.
Which again, I know nothing about.
Yeah, the Black Knight I did know a very smidge about, but it's only in passing. It's not like anything other than that. And the other character that gets nods at the very, very, very end post-credit scene. I know about him a little bit. I was actually going to cosplay.
Are we talking about Eros or Star Fox?
Star Fox. Yeah, I actually was gonna make a Star Fox, and I was like, no one will get this. And then I just shelved it. So I guess I have to pull it out now.
So Eros is going to be played by Mr. Harry Styles, and it is Thanos's brother, which is interesting. So any final words on the Eternals? All I gotta say is, just like anything else that we mentioned on the show, you have to make up your own mind. And and to be honest with you, I think this is a great addition to the MCU. And again, like I had mentioned, the deviants, weren't organic enough for me and stuff like that. And, I did fall into a couple trappings, when it comes to the storyline and whatnot, like definitely some plot holes there that we didn't necessarily get into. Because again, don't really know too much about the Eternals. It just felt like there was plot holes where there shouldn't be any or something like that. But at the same time, I had an enjoyable time. And, I definitely welcome the Eternals into the MCU. I really hope that, they continue on with this story. I mean, obviously, since it's a worldwide, like #1 film right now, probably would. And that's, really all I have to say about it. Chloe Zhao is a phenomenal director. I mean, that I know why she gets the accolades that she gets. It
was beautiful.
She's something for the books, for sure. She's wonderful. And that's it. I mean, really, that's all I have to say. Go see the Eternals. It's a lot of fun. I think there's some more meat there than most Marvel films. And I say that, as a massive fan of all of it. But I love the stakes, and I love the family drama and all that stuff. It's definitely, it just didn't have the same, like we had mentioned, it doesn't have the same beats as.
Give it a chance. Give it a chance.
It definitely had a story to it.
It was unique. 2.5 hours of your life doing other things. I see you.
What about you? Anything to say about Eternals before we go here?
I thought it was a beautifully done movie. The costumes are incredible. I might be already looking up doing Athena cosplay. Well,
I mean, you're halfway there now.
But yeah, which is crazy because it's in my closet. This was just But yeah, I loved everything. I'm glad that we have representation in so many aspects now, and just Marvel, keep doing what you're doing, man. You're doing good. You're doing good.
Yeah. And yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much it, for this particular episode. Go see Eternals. It's out now. And for you Ghostbusters out there, we got some really exciting news, because we've got 2 weeks of Ghostbusters conversation coming up, starting with the classic Ghostbusters from 1984. And then, of course, the week after that, we will look into Jason Reitman's legacy, Ghostbusters Afterlife, see what he actually has to bring to the table. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of busting going on in the next couple of weeks. So again, if you like the show, like and subscribe. It definitely helps get out to more people, and we'll see you next week. Talk to you soon. Bye.